Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to Electrify Boroondara. I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves and found this event useful and informative thus far. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people whose land we're meeting on today, pay my respects to their elders past, present, and future, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander peoples present here today. My name's Felix. I'm a mechatronics engineering student from Swinburne University Sustainability Society, and I'll be guiding and moderating our discussion today. Since leaving behind music several years ago, I've dedicated my life to the study and design of renewable energy technology and believe strongly that this group of systems will make the biggest contribution to changing the course of our future out of all the paths of focus available to us. I'm excited to be here to help you all learn how to integrate and use this technology and related practices to improve your lives. The aim of today's discussion is to answer the question, I don't have money, what can I do to reduce energy costs? With many product systems and practices available on offer and a wide range of variably useful information available on the topic, it can often be difficult to find the best path to achieving this goal. Before we begin, the panelists would like to know to help shape the discussion, can I get a show of hands? Who here is a landlord? Tenant? And owns their own property? Alrighty, that answers that question. Okay. To help guide you in the right direction, we've assembled a team of experts from a variety of institutions doing good work right here in the city of Boroondara and across wider Australia. Lucinda Flynn is a certified home energy assessor from Going Green Solutions. She'll be talking about how to reduce energy bills by using simple techniques targeting key habits and pieces of equipment that can decrease your energy usage. Rowan Jamieson is an energy advisor at Uniting who'll be bringing to light useful methods for reducing the financial burden of energy costs, including important government initiatives and organizations who can assist those in need. And Georgia Wooten is a rental support services manager from the Tenants Union and will be providing advice and information on how to approach and negotiate with landlords about making modifications and repairs to reduce your energy costs, as well as the rights you have as a tenant in this domain. We'll spend about 20 minutes up here with our panelists, followed by 25 minutes for audience Q&A. Thank you all for coming. I'll now hand over for our first speaker of the evening.
Hi everyone. Thanks for coming here and especially lengthening your day because I know it officially all finishes at 4. I'm a home energy efficiency assessor, so my job is to go into people's homes and help them work out what to do. And one of the things I enjoy most is helping people understand the things they can do in their homes that actually are really low cost and achievable. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. One of the first things is that I think we need to reframe, I think it's great to get off gas, but I also want people to feel that it's okay to not necessarily be capable of swapping everything all at once, but just to focus on the savings that they can make. And there's a fantastic term that I love called negawatts, which starts with an N, not an M, and it's about every watt that you don't use is a saving, and you're saving emissions, you're saving money. So energy efficiency is the absolute first place for me that you start in reducing your gas use, also your electricity use. If I had limited funds, which I did have when we first moved into our house, the first thing I would do is have a bit of a review of the house in its entirety. That means the way it's constructed, the whole building shell, the appliances that I'm using and the way that I'm using them, because there are ways you can be more efficient in all of those areas. The first thing I would do, and also I would remember that the biggest cost most of us have in our households is for heating. Usually at least half of our energy bills are for heating, and it could be up to 80%. So if you just even focus on heating, you're going a long way towards what you're aiming at. I would first of all look at zoning. Zoning is one of the simplest and cheapest ways to reduce your energy use. And what it's about is thinking about the different areas in your home. It might be that you spend 90% of your time in one area. That means that you can focus your efforts on that area and just heating and cooling that area, which will cost a fraction of trying to think of the whole house at once. And it's less daunting as well because you're just focusing in on one smaller space. It could be a room that you close off, but it could also be about zoning out problematic areas. Like I was assessing a house last week that was quite a small compact house with gas ducted heating, and it had one area that was a laundry and a toilet and a back door with 2 permanently open louver windows and just huge amounts of drafts. And for them, it was as simple as putting a curtain up to zone out that bit, and that probably halved their heating costs because they weren't losing all the heat all the time. Also, you might think about, is there a space that you already have a reverse cycle air conditioner? They're the cheapest way to heat, so if it is, you might pinpoint that zone. In that area, I would look at draft proofing. There's a heap of information on Sustainability Victoria about the type of drafts you might have and what to do about each of them. And you can ask questions about that later if you like. Windows, don't worry about the idea of replacing all of your windows with double glazed ones. If you don't have money, the cheapest way usually to start is with really good window coverings. Lined curtains are out of fashion, which is great if you've got no money because you can get them really easily at the op shop. And they make a massive difference to how well you can stop heat being lost through your windows. Glazing upgrades, as simple as putting bubble wrap onto windows, is a really cheap way, and there's some other products that are much, much cheaper options for getting that air gap in your windows. Low-cost shading could be deciduous vines that give you beautiful shade in summer, but let the winter sunshine through, and insulation. Insulation, one of the most common things I see in insulation is just that there's lots of holes being left by tradies who have gone into the roof. If you just get up there and rearrange it to reduce all those holes, you can double the actual functional value of how your insulation's working. So with appliances, if you have any reverse cycle air conditioning, just use it. Use it instead of gas ducted heating or any other kind of heating. If you don't have a reverse cycle air conditioner and you have any money at all, that's probably what I would do, is put one into your key zone. There are good rebates for doing that. The other thing is thinking about heating your body rather than all of the air in a room. Imagine heating all of the air in this room as compared to getting a heated blanket, which are not that expensive. You can sit there and be totally warm. I've got a heated seat pad on my office chair, so I can... Have you got one of them?
I do.
They're amazing. And another option is a infrared heater, which you can angle to be... It heats whatever it reflects onto. So I've got a son in year 11 studying, and they've got one angled over his desk. It heats him, doesn't need to heat the whole room. Much more efficient. And then finally, using appliances efficiently would be, think of a car. It runs most efficiently when you service it, maintain it, make sure the oil's clean. Same with your reverse cycle air conditioners or gas appliances. Make sure they're serviced and running well. That means cleaning the air conditioner filters. With a hot water system, you might be checking for any leaks in that, which could be hopefully something that you could fix up fairly easily, but that's, it's those sort of hidden things that you can keep your eye on and just make sure everything's functioning well. I think I might wrap that up. I probably talked for more than 5 minutes
just
already.
on time. All good. All right, well, we'll pass it over to the next person.
Good afternoon all. So yes, my name's Rowan and I work at Uniting VicTas as an energy advisor, helping people with issues to do with their energy bills. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what to do if you're having difficulty paying your bills and what kind of support is available. So firstly, in Victoria, we've got the Utility Relief Grant, which is a grant you can apply for on each utility bill up to $650 every 2 years. Or if you only have electricity, you can apply for up to $1,300. There is criteria for the grant. A common one is if your rent or mortgage is more than 30% of your household income. It could be job loss, unexpected expenses like medical costs, car repairs. The way you apply is through your energy retailer. You give them a call and they can submit an application on your behalf. You don't have to be a concession card holder, but there are income thresholds depending on whether you're single, couple, family, so you speak to your retailer about that. In Victoria, we have the payment difficulty framework, which sets out what retailers need to do if their customers are in hardship. It includes things like you can defer a bill once a year. If you're behind on the bills, you can place a 6-month hold on that debt and just pay for your usage. And there are other things in that as well. So you can look up payment difficulty framework entitlements, and that will give you more details. Certainly, if you can't pay for what you're using, you can go on a plan that's affordable for you. Of course, there'll be a debt accruing, but you don't have to be paying that amount if you can't at that time. So if you are having difficulty, speak to your energy retailer. Many of them have separate hardship departments that you can speak to. Also, they will all have a hardship policy on their website, so have a read through that. Some retailers offer incentive payments, so if you're doing instalment payments, they might pay 1 in every 6 payments, they'll put a credit on the account for you. So it's a really good idea to look at their individual policy. Of course, there's many retailers out there and many different energy plans, so making sure you're on the best offer is obviously key to keeping costs down. The best place to compare energy companies is at the Energy Compare site for Victoria, which is compare.energy.vic.gov.au. But if you look up Victoria Energy Compare and just make sure you get the government website, you'll find it. You can put in your NMI number, which is your National Meter Identifier number, and which is on your bill. It'll actually pull up your smart meter data and recommend a plan based upon your energy use. And of course, it's a government site, so there's no sales commissions. You're going to see pretty much all the offers that are available. Once you've done that and you've found the best company, keep an eye on the bill. On the front page of the bill, there's a thing called the best offer notice that many people don't see, and it will tell you if you are on the best plan that your company has. Every company will have 2 or 3 different offers available at any one time. So the front page, it'll either say something like you're on the best plan based upon your usage, or you're on one of our low-cost plans. If there's ever anything cheaper, it always says, could you save money on another plan based on your past usage? This other one could save you up to this amount per year, and it gives you an estimation of those savings. Anything over $50 is pretty much guaranteed to be cheaper. Below that, of course, it's a bit on the fence. And then every 6 to 12 months, get on the Victorian Energy Compare site again, because there's always new companies coming onto the market. It's changed. Every time I get on there, I'm like, here's another one I've never heard of before. So it's a really good idea to make that part of your routine. If you get concessions, check that you're actually getting them. All the time in my work, I see people who are eligible for concessions and they're not on the bills. So do that regularly. If you've got gas and electricity with the same provider, don't assume because your concession's on the electricity bill that's also on the gas. It can often be missing from one or the other. A concession that a lot of people aren't aware of is the medical cooling concession. So if you or anyone in the home has a medical condition that affects your body's ability to regulate temperature, you can get an additional 17.5% off your summer bills.
Closing in on the end, yeah.
Closing on the end. If you have any further issues, don't hesitate to contact the Ombudsman. That's what they're there for. And you can also contact my organisation for an appointment on 1800 313 126. You won't remember that number, but if you look up Uniting Victas Energy Program, it's got some information about us and our contact details.
Mm.
There you go, just on time.
Thank you. My name is Georgia and I'm a lawyer and rental support service manager at Tenants Victoria. And I'll be touching on a few other similar themes that my colleagues have spoken about. But just to tell you a little bit about us, we've been around for 45 years and we help elevate the rights of renters, and we work closely with government funders and Consumer Affairs Victoria and REIV, really just to make the housing stock in Victoria just safer. Our vision is a safe, secure and affordable home for all Victorians. And whether or not you're a renter or you're particularly interested in investing in the rental market, or if you're a homeowner but having to use a rental property, potentially for the time that you're doing renovations for your home because you can't live there, hopefully this information will be helpful even if you're not currently renting. We really want to talk about the intermingle of health and housing as a social determinant. We understand that people can get really sick in unhealthy houses, and really the hope here is to talk about how to keep your home healthy, affordable, so that really it's a better society generally. You may be informed, 2021, we had 130 changes to the Residential Tenancies Act, which affected landlords and renters quite substantially. And some of those incentives are actually only coming in this year, and some aren't due to come in until 2025. But today I'd like to talk about a few of the ones that might impact us, particularly in this discussion that we're having. So the first one is about the minimum standards. There's 14 of them all up, and they're all very exciting if you're as nerdy about tenancy law as I am, but I'll just stick with a couple that's useful for today. One of them is the simple shower head change. In all rentals, there needs to be a 3-star water shower head change, and many people that are moving into homes are actually wanting more. It's not a minimum standard, but you certainly can change it, and it's something that we recommend doing right at the start of the tenancy, and if you need to, swap it back at the end. The important one, particularly for Victoria in our cooler climate, is the energy efficient heaters. So every main house, just the main living area, needs to have a fixed heater, and that's set at a 2-star rating. Again, these they're not particularly aggressive minimum standards, but they are there, and it's really important that we know that that's a requirement in Victoria law. We've touched on the switching to the gas to the electrical, and for many renters, it's not really a possibility. We don't have the authority and often not the cash flow to be able to do that. But it's a conversation that we've seen work really well with the parties. There's a discussion about wanting to make a more energy efficient home, to save money, and we've had some really positive discussions and actual implementation. And even if it doesn't go as positively, and the parties can't agree on anything, even renters and people that own their homes can not use the gas and use one of the $50 induction cooktops, which are excellent. And also, when eventually the old gas heaters are often not working properly, they're either having to be closed off because they're decided that they're a danger. And so when that upgrade availability comes, absolutely talk about changing that to the electric as opposed to the gas, because it's just going to be so much more cheaper. We know that a third of the cost in Victoria, there was a study done a couple of years ago, and it's still true to this day, that using from gas to electricity is about, particularly for renters, this study was done for, they were using a third of the cost for their utility bills. And often renters are paying more than 30% of their rent in rental income, so all of those extra things in the pocket really make a difference to what you have at the end of the day after you pay rent. You touched on the window coverings already. Something I wanted to add to that, because it can be expensive to buy them, but yeah, secondhand curtains, you don't need consent to change them. So if you are moving into a property just for a year while you're renovating your own home, it's a big change that lots of renters are doing, just taking their own curtains from property to property. No consent needed. We've also been encouraging people to stick like a film over their windows that you can take off, remove the grime and take them when you go. But that insulation is really helping. There's also heaps of modifications. The LED lights, for example, that are around, they're certainly expensive to fork out right at the beginning, but most people are signing up for leases for 12 months onwards. Within 12 months, you're definitely going to get your money back from using an LED light than the normal one. And I remember hearing your tip about conserving energy. Instead of turning on like all of the 6 downlights in the main room, a nice glow of 1 lamp might do, and that's something that renters and people have been doing just to save money. The discussion of draft proofing is happening. I've been to 3 or 4. Most councils are doing these. You can go in, get your free draft proof kit. If you're a little bit scared of a drill, you can get someone to go and do it for you, but otherwise are really easily installed with a drill. And the other thing I just wanted to touch on lastly is that the law essentially states that you have to have your home in good repair. we see huge electricity bills when the home isn't in good repair, when you can't close windows, when the heater's not working or the electricity's not working. If you get those repairs fixed, then the amount of money that you're going to pay is going to be less. But also, just a cautionary note that if you're telling somebody that something needs to be fixed, and particularly in a rented property, and they don't fix it, the excess bill for your utilities is actually the responsibility of the rental provider. And so there's a useful thing to know both ways, that you have to tell the rental provider that something's broken so they can fix it. And if it's not broken, then that responsibility for that bill actually passes on.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Well, those were fantastic and incredibly informative. All right, so now we'll pass things over to the audience for questions. If anyone has anything they'd like to ask the panelists. Do we have a microphone we can pass around to?
The last lady who spoke, thank you very much. What is a $50 induction cooktop?
I'm not going to say names, but I got mine from Kmart. And it's like a little portable in plug-in, almost like a electric stir-fry pan that you get. That's the only thing I could think of similar. But it's a heat source, and you can pop your pot on there. And I often use it because the gas thing in my house is quite little, and I can't even fit 2 pots on it together. And so I use my secondary induction one. And now I prefer it. It's my preferred one. $50 is quite cheap. There are very sexy ones out there that are range up to $250 if you want to get fancy. But it's been a useful thing for, particularly when you can't change, the oven.
So is it flat top or is it?
It's a little flat top.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
size
you.
of an iPad.
Yeah.
Could I just put a cautionary note on that? A cautionary note on that is you've got to be careful about the type of pot you're putting on it. So not all pots are suitable for induction cooking.
Anyone else with questions?
Thank you. To the gentleman who just gave that cautionary note, does that mean that clay pots would be unsuitable? Clay cooking pots?
It's got to be metal. It's got to be...
They need to...
It's got to be magnetic, so only like stainless steel or like
Only
steel.
stainless steel.
The simplest thing to do is get a fridge magnet and see if it sticks to your pot, and if it does, it's suitable. Most
see.
pots are fine. But, when we swapped over, we had maybe, 3, 4 things that didn't work, and the rest were all fine.
So any fridge magnet,
Any
just see if it
fridge,
sticks
any
to the
magnet
pot.
of any sort,
I see.
put it on the pot. If it sticks there, it's suitable for induction.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the bottom. Yeah.
Sometimes they have a different metal.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you very much for that advice.
I've got a big voice, so I just thought.
Good on you.
Volume.
Other people will hear. I've just been in a session where there was discussion around dealing with your electrician. So if you are upgrading, you're wanting to do an induction hot top, you want to get off your gas, you want to put in an electric heat pump, a heat pump for your hot water, and you're lucky enough to have an EV and you need to charge your car, and that the electrician will tell you that you need 30 amps for the induction, you'll need 30 amps for your car, and you'll need another 30 amp for your heat pump, which means you'd need an upgrade of your switchboard. Do you have any advice about that? They seem to think upstairs in the mayor's room that was overkill and not necessary. I'm not sure if that's your technical area, but I'd be interested in some response on that.
Should I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Look, that's not my expertise area, so I would refer you to an electrician, but I would perhaps get a couple of different opinions if you think that it might be overkill, because I've heard people say that they've been told they need to upgrade to 3-phase power in order to put in an induction cooktop. You definitely can get induction cooktops that don't need three-phase power, but it might be that they've chosen a really big one or a really fancy one that requires it. So it's a matter of understanding the connection between those two things, so you can work out how to get one that doesn't need three-phase power.
Kristen upstairs said that it actually relates to the standards which are very outdated. And so the standards refer to the sucking power of old-fashioned light bulbs, which nobody uses anymore. So it's assuming a draw of power that is not relevant to today.
Yeah, no, if you don't have like industrial equipment in your house, there's probably no reason to have three-phase power in your home.
Just to continue that conversation, the man I was chatting to said that for a 3-burner induction cooktop, heat pump and solar power, etc., would only need 40 amps in the power box. So, but the question that I'm interested in, we were just talking about split systems, and there was a suggestion that we could use a split system and use the ducted heating pipes, use a split system to push the air through the gas ducted pipes.
Yeah.
Has that been done?
So you mean you've got a current gas ducted system and you're talking about replacing just the gas, the unit that creates the heat with a reverse cycle unit? My understanding is that's usually not possible because of the difference in the ductwork that's used between the two systems. Also, another big factor is that if that system is quite old, if your ductwork is anywhere earlier than 2005, it's going to have 50% heat loss through the ductwork because of faults in the ductwork, because it's not very well insulated. So would you really want to, reuse something with such a big heat loss? And individual separate reverse cycle units are always going to be more efficient. So it may be that somewhere somebody's done it, that they've done that, but I think that in most situations it just wouldn't be worth it or possible.
I'd also just add to that as well that the installation of the ductwork affects the efficiency.
Yeah.
So even if you could use the existing layout, if that's been done really poorly, it may be well worth it to actually get it redone and have people look at it, because you could get a lazy tradie who goes, I'll just run the ductwork this way because it makes my life easier, but it makes your heating and cooling less efficient. So you'd want to look at that really.
Something I read the other day, a comment which I thought was brilliant, was that the reason so many of us have gas ducted heating systems is because it's the only way we can heat our terribly leaky, uninsulated houses. Whereas if your house is really energy efficient, you just don't need a ducted system to each room. It's overkill.
Sorry. Did you want to? No. Just as a clarification there, it was in the previous session where they said replace your heating and cooling, your gas ducted heating and cooling with a heat pump system.
Ducted?
Ducted. Is that a different system altogether?
Yeah, yes. Reverse cycle ducted is electric, and it's based on heat pump technology, and it's a different system to gas ducted. But if I had gas ducted, I wouldn't replace it with a ducted reverse cycle. I'd replace it with individual split systems. If I was wanting to be the most efficient and the most comfortable.
Depends on your property though. We've got reverse cycle ducted at home. There's nowhere I can put a split system in my living room because of the windows. There's nowhere for it to be installed. So you've got to make choices depending on your own property.
Yeah, yes, that's very true. Yes.
And certainly if you do have to go with a ducted system, you want to look at those zoning, also the temperature control as well. So initially when we had our system put in, the thermostat's in the living room, but then we also have a zoned heating for the other part of the house. So we put another thermostat in that second zone so that when you zone it off, so things like where your thermostat is, like if it's too close to a window and it's getting some sun, you know, that all those sorts of things, the way things are installed, so really do a lot of research, multiple quotes, you know, and talk to people so that all those little variables you can kind of, you know, avoid.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else with questions?
I've just got one. I'm not sure if you've already covered it because it came late, but have you gone into some of the rebates that are possible?
We didn't. Would you like, was there a specific thing you're in?
What kinds of rebates are possible in
Yeah.
Victorian, local government, federal government?
Do you,
Well, I mean, they're also, every state has their own rebates. Because I work predominantly with people that have like $0 and might owe a lot of money on their energy bills going, and they're renting generally. We don't go into a lot of detail about that. But yeah, there's, you know, solar rebates available. There's rebates available for heat pumps. Although I would say just quietly, the state government units, the Chromogen heat pumps, I don't think are very good quality. I personally wouldn't go there, but you know, if that's your only option.
but all of the heat pumps have rebates.
Yes.
They're just the cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's like the free one that you can get, and then you just pay for the installation. So you'd want to look at whether or not it's worth getting the free one if you can afford to pay for another one. There's rebates on split systems.
Yeah.
What
So
else?
if you like, after this, I could tell you the exact rebates for solar heat pumps, split systems.
Can I just add that
Yeah.
on one of the tables, that we have a list of them all, and we have the QR codes that takes you direct to the website concerned. So if it is rebates that you're after, we have a whole sheet of them, and the Electrify Boroondara table has got that.
Brilliant.
And at the back of the room, there's another. I don't know if.
There's a set of additional info
Yeah.
pamphlet up the
Yes.
back of the hall. It's just a stack
So
of
we've got
papers on the
two.
table
I
over
can
there.
get you the rebate one on the back of the table. If I can go and get that as well. It might be helpful. Okay.
I'd also mention temperature as well. Every extra degree that you try and heat to or cool to will add 10% to the running cost. So winter we recommend 18 to 21, summer 24 to 26. Every degree makes a difference. I find a lot of people set and forget. So yeah, you might heat to 21 and degrees in winter, and that's, you know, within the recommended temperature. But we tend to feel different at different times. I know myself, I feel cold and I look at the thermostat and I go, it's 20 degrees in here. Yesterday it was 18 and I felt warm. So, you know, you can adjust the temperature that you have it at. If you're moving around the house, doing housework, have your heater on 18. Then in the evening when you're sitting down, your body's not moving, you might feel colder, you might want to turn it up to 20. But for those 2 hours earlier on, your heating wasn't running as much. So trying to have it at the lowest temperature possible, and don't just set and forget. And also never use your split system or ducted reverse cycle on auto, because that just sets one temperature to keep the house at that temperature all the time. So if it's on auto, and let's say it's a winter afternoon, and I've got my auto temperature set on 21, but it's a bit warm and there's some sunshine coming in, and the house is at 22, the aircon's going to kick on to turn it back to 21. So it's definitely, you know, switch between the right modes. Use your heating mode and use your cooling mode. Another top tip is that I've been using is in the springtime when it's in the afternoon, it might be 19 degrees outside. It's a nice sunny day. You've been out for the day. You come home. It's only 16 degrees in the house because it's been closed up while you're out. Just put the fan only on the split system. You'll draw in the warmer air from outside into the house, just using the fan. So the fan doesn't use much energy. It's the actual heating and cooling where all the energy use goes. So that's very much a seasonal thing. And then if it's wintertime, it is starting to cool down once the sun goes down. When you actually come to turn the heater on, the house is already 18 degrees and you've got that kind of benefit free.
Great idea.
Is there any? Lovely. Were there any other questions? Okay, fantastic. Well, in that case, that's probably
Yeah.
things have been answered fairly well. Thank you all so much for coming.
One
and,
more quick thing, sorry
attending.
Felix.
Oh,
If you
sorry.
are a landlord and you are interested in helping your tenant out, have a conversation with them because they may not, be comfortable speaking to you about it. They could have problems in the house that they're not wanting to bring up because they're worried about rent increases or getting kicked out. So if you're wanting to do the right thing, reach out to them and ask them are they comfortable, is the heater working okay, and have a chat.
Lovely. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it. And as was said earlier, there's pamphlets up the back of the hall in case you need any additional info. Oh, good. Ah, wonderful. Okay. Thank you all so much to our lovely speakers.